Hello everybody. In this screencast we're going to talk about creating custom cells. I know previously we created custom cells, but we registered them directly inside the table view. Registering them directly inside the table view makes it very easy to use, but it causes problems with reusability. This cell that you created that is registered directly into the table view, you cannot reuse it. Right? How are you going to reuse it? It's registered inside the table view. So in this screencast we're going to look at how you can create custom cells, create custom classes to represent them, even create custom layouts that exist even outside the storyboard, and how you can register them with table views and how you can use them. So to start, I have a simple project here. To start, let's just go in to the main storyboard and just do the initial setup, which is a repetition of a lot of things that we did. Let's add the table view. Let's add a table view. Here it is. We add a table view, and we just set up the constraints and so on. So that has nothing to do with the cells, but just to get started. Right. So we have our table view. I just anchored it to all sides, and then let's add the table view reference to the table view in here. So we added a reference to it. We say table view, adding an outlet. Now also let's implement the delegates that are required by the table view. So we'll extend extension view controller UI table data source, and extension view controller UI delegate, the table view delegate. So added that. Now we go back. It wants to implement them. We'll come back to this, but we also don't forget to wire up the data source for the table view, okay, and the delegate for the table view to be the view controller, as the view controller actually implements these delegates. Okay, so now let's say we are ready to get some things done, but this is the steps that we did before. But what we did before is that we added a cell to the table view, but in this case we're going to add it in a different way. We're going to create the cell outside the table view, and then we wire it up to the table view. Why is this interesting or important? One, it enables you to create a custom one. It's not directly tied to the table view. Two, it makes it easier to update the views in the cell view, and easier to access the views. We don't have to use tags anymore. And makes it easier to reuse. You can reuse it across the same cell, across or the same cell, custom cell that curated across multiple table views. Okay. So how do we start? We go in, add a new class, a new file, okay, and Cocoa Touch, okay, and basically we need to make sure that you select table view cell, okay, and I will call it custom table view cell. Also create a nib file. So this xib, which is the nib file, which is actually the layout file for the cell. Okay, so we click OK, create, and notice now that there are two files that got created: the custom table view, which extends UITableView cell, and the layout file for it. Okay, so if you click on the layout file and you look at its properties, you see it's already tied up to that custom table view cell that we created. So let's say we create a simple one. Let's add some labels. Let's add a label. Here is a label. I can just drag and drop a label here. I can size this a little bit bigger, so I'll make it a little bit bigger. Create a label here, and I'll wire up another label to the bottom of the screen, and add some constraints. So let's put some constraints like this. Add this constraint, and then for this guy also add some constraints, and I'll create on control and drag from here to here to set up the vertical spacing between them. Okay, so I have these two labels, 1, 2. Now if you click on the label and you click on the show assistant editor, you'll see that it actually ties up to this layout. Is tied up already to the cell, the table view cell, right? The custom table view cell, right? Now I can just create an outlet, so I don't need tags anymore. So I can create an outlet to that cell. I could say upper label, for example, right? Okay, and I can have one for the lower label. Okay, so I have an upper label and a lower label. Okay, perfect. So now we have that. So I created the cell. It's very simple cell. It has two labels, right? Now, if you look at the view controller, now we need to tell this table view that we have, right? I'm now in the view controller. I need to tell it about that cell being present. So to do that, you need to notify or register this cell into the table view so that it can be used in the table view, and you can dequeue and so on, right? So how do you do that? We need to get the nib or the nib reference for that cell. So cell nib, for example, equals and UI nib, okay, and we'll pick up the second one, which is provide a nib name. So the nib name here is the file name for the nib file, custom table. So the name of this file is the same name as this nib file, okay? All right. Now the bundle, you just indicate the bundle as nil, which makes it the main bundle, which is the bundle, which is the default bundle, yeah, right? So that's basically, we get the nib. Now if you look at the table view, to register, you say table view dot, and if you look for register, and you could see you can register a nib, and you can specify the cell reuse identifier. Perfect. So basically I'll go here, the nib is the cell nib that we retrieved, and then the identifier, I'll call it, so for example, my cell, for example. So this is the identifier that we will use. Let's say we will tell it that we have 10 rows. Okay, so I'll return 10 rows for the number of rows in section, right? And then here I'll say let cell equals dequeue table view dot dequeue with reusable, right? The reusable is what? My cell, okay, which matches the identifier here, right? And then the index path is index path. Cool. So I have my cell. I'll just return cell, and you could see I'm not specifying any data or anything here, but you could see here, if I go here, I could say cell dot, and then I have the upper. Oh, and for me to be able to get cell dot upper, you remember here we created an upper label and a lower label. So what we need to do is that this cell is just simply a UI table view cell. We need to cast it to as custom cell. All right. Right. Exclamation mark. Now if you go and say dot upper, you see here I can get the upper label dot text, and I could say, for example, upper. I could say, for example, index. Let's say upper label, and then I would say maybe index path. I could add the index path as just index path dot row, and then for the cell dot lower label dot text equals, I could do the same thing, but instead of upper I'll just say lower label and specify some value, right? So basically I'll say lower label, and I'll say index path, or maybe I'll do, instead of the row, I'll do the section. All right, and I'm returning the cell. So basically now let's run it and see what it will look like. You will see that I created a custom cell, and now we're running it to see what it would look like. Basically you will see a table has 10 rows. Oops, it crashed. So let's see quickly, why did it crash? Scroll all the way to the top. Now the could not load this nib custom table view. Probably I wrote the wrong nib name. So basically you have to be careful with the wrong nib name. So now if you go look at the view controller, I said custom table view, which is wrong, right? I need custom table view cell. So what I could do, I could just do I go here and just copy the name of the class, or which is exactly the same name as the nib file, right? Go here and I paste that. So basically I did not have the correct string, right, for the nib file. The nib file is custom table view cell, right? Now run it again, and then when you run it, you will see that here we are. You could see that there is an upper label and there is a lower label, and you could see that the index path is being represented, and so on, right? So you can also do the following. Let's say another advantage of that is that if I create another table view and I want to reuse that specific row, I could just go and do the same thing. I just register it to the table view and then I can dequeue it. Okay, so another thing is, what if I have a button that I insert here, and when I click on that button, I'd like to see what happens when I click on a button, and how can I identify that button to be for and associated with a specific index path and so on. We'll look at that in the next video. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.